Now, the rushed evacuation from Kabul and U.S. troop casualties have further intensified political pressure on U.S. President Joe Biden. The Biden administration has been blamed for being caught unawares by the sudden and violent attack on Kabul airport and the speed at which the Taliban was able to seize power from an elected U.S.-backed government. The deaths of 13 American soldiers in a suicide bomb attack at the Kabul airport have served as a big political setback to Biden amid a panic-stricken and botched evacuation attempt. And now, along with Joe Biden, U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken is also facing the heat. The calls for their resignations, as well as Biden's impeachment, are ever growing. Republicans want Biden to pay the political price for the crisis in Afghanistan. Republican Congressman Jim Banks has criticized Biden, calling the decision of America's withdrawal from Afghanistan as hasty retreat. Former U.S. Navy reservist Jim Banks is now Republican congressman. He served in Afghanistan as a foreign military sales officer from 2014 to 2015. According to him, with the drawdown, America is leaving behind $85 billion worth of American equipment. And if any of these weapons or this military equipment is used to harm, injure, or kill an American now or at any time in the future, the blood is on Joe Biden's hands. Now, Banks has claimed that after the Afghan military put down their weapons, the Taliban now have access to over 75,000 U.S. military vehicles, along with 200-plus aircraft and over 500,000 small arms and light weapons. The Taliban also have Black Hawk helicopters, more than 85% of the countries in the world, and biometric devices which contain the biometric information of all the Afghans who helped America.
If any American is harmed, injured, or killed and not safely evacuated out of Afghanistan, or if any of these weapons or this military equipment is used to harm, injure, or kill an American now or at any time in the future, the blood is on Joe Biden's hands.
GOP officials are falling all over themselves, demanding Biden to step aside. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn went ahead to say that Biden and his top national security staff should resign and face an impeachment trial. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley tweeted, "Should Biden step down or be removed for his handling of Afghanistan? Yes." Senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, has joined the league by tweeting, "It is now clear beyond all doubt that he has neither the capacity nor the will to lead." There are dozens of other Republicans who believe that the time for Biden to step aside has come. For more on this, Fred Fleet, the president for the Center for Security Policy and a CIA analyst, is joining us live on the broadcast from Washington, D.C. Thank you for being with us, Fred. Now, from Afghans clinging to airplanes to the desperate crowds outside the Kabul airport and the deadly blast on Thursday, with every passing day, do you think that President Biden's promises of competence and strength seem to ring somewhat hollow?
Well, I'm a conservative, and I worked for President Trump, and I believed in President Trump, and I was hoping to give Joe Biden a chance, but he made the wrong call in Afghanistan. There was a way to withdraw systematically, condition-based, holding the Taliban accountable, but Joe Biden chose to withdraw abruptly without working with the Afghan military or government. We blindsided them. We ignored our allies. We left all this military equipment behind, which you described quite well. It's a catastrophe. And I think it is going to undermine the rest of his presidency. I think he's in real political trouble. Right.
You've answered my next question to some degree. In your assessment, then, how justified are these calls for President Joe Biden to resign?
I think the calls are legitimate. That's not going to happen for political reasons. He won't leave, and the Republicans do not have the numbers in Congress to force him out. I guess a bigger question is, what does this say about the United States and democracy? And I'm not as pessimistic as some people. We know democracies have produced some great leaders, Franklin Roosevelt, Indira Gandhi, Winston Churchill. It's also produced some terrible ones like Richard Nixon and Alberto Fujimori. That's why Churchill once said that democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others that have been tried. Sometimes bad leaders get elected into government. We have a strong system to control that. But I think the people of India and the United States know that these things happen sometimes, and it's now our responsibility to clean up this mess.
Right. Do you think that it's not just President Biden, but also his national security advisors and team who bear the responsibility for this hurried troop withdrawal from Afghanistan?
I do. I believe Biden made a bad call, and his advisors, some of them objected, some of them said nothing. There should have been resignations. This was such a bad decision, and these officials knew it, and I think they therefore bear responsibility too.
Now, of course, the next big question is what happens post the August 31st deadline when all the US and allied troops forces are meant to have left Afghan soil?
I think the U.S. has to work with its allies in the region to try to get the Taliban to respect the rights of the Afghan people, not let the country become a safe haven for terrorism. My hope is that India will use its influence in Afghanistan to do that. The U.S. has to lean heavily on Pakistan, the Taliban's most important ally, to try to get it to not let Afghanistan become a safe haven for terrorism. But I'm very worried. A lot of these weapons, I'm afraid, will go to Iran and Russia and China. We have a lot of work to do.
Now, Fred, a group of 69 lawmakers from the Senate and the House of Representatives asked President Biden if he plans to ensure that Afghanistan under the Taliban occupation will never acquire nuclear weapons. What are President Biden's options here?
I don't think there's any chance that the Taliban will acquire nuclear weapons. Someone would have to give one to them. I don't see any country doing that. I think it's worth calling for. I'm more worried about Iran acquiring nuclear weapons, and I'm hoping that Biden's failure in Afghanistan will get him to reassess his approach to Iran and to drop his efforts to rejoin the deeply flawed 2015 nuclear deal.
Right. Fred, thank you very much. We'll leave it there for now. Thanks for being with us on this broadcast.
Pleasure to be here.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.